Rather than spending an hour laning on our own side of the map, let's record a podcast where we talk video games. Welcome to the Impact Factor. The Impact Factor is what happens when two scientists and two best friends get together to talk about video games. My name is Alex Samocha, and I'm joined this week, as I am every week here on the Impact Factor, by the guy whose voice performance in Destiny was also recast by Nolan North. Sorry, man. My co-host, Charles Fliss.
But don't I sound so much better now that I've been recast?
The Fliss bot, I know, was a fan favorite, a point of contention. Your line about the wizard came from the moon was, I know that made waves on the internet. But you're gone now. You're no longer in Destiny, man.
It's kind of heartbreaking to be cut out of such an iconic moment in recent video games history.
It was iconic.
I'll have to find a way to move on.
Yeah, Nolan North continues to be in every game ever. But that's among the many stories that came out of Gamescom this week. We've got a lot to talk about here. But you guys all know that the Impact Factor is Fliss and I going through the news, games, and stories with the biggest impact. We've got a very extra super special episode of the Impact Factor for you all today. For the first time ever, we have brought on a guest host. That's right. You know, the normal podcast dynamic where three people are talking, we've got it today. Keeping in the theme with the theme of the podcast, we found another scientist to talk games. So today we'd like to welcome Thomas Fliss to the show, mechanical engineer, aka applied scientist. So welcome, Thomas. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, Thomas has been a part of the show from the very beginning. He's managed to listen to even the dark days at the start of our podcast. He just so happens to be one of our co-hosts, brother, but we have him on. He's been a lifelong gamer, mechanical engineer, applied scientist, computer scientist extraordinaire. Thomas, do you want to, or Fliss, do you want to jump in, tell me a little bit more about yourself, your history?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say that Thomas here, my much shorter than me younger brother.
Okay. I'm not sure the emphasis is needed there, but we'll run with it.
I mean, if I'm going to say a blatant lie on the podcast, I feel I should emphasize it as much as possible. But no, Thomas, like you said, he's friend, family, and longtime listener of the show, and it's very exciting to get to basically do what I've done every day since we both could pretty much talk to each other about games, which is talk games with him. So very excited to have Thomas here.
Well, as Charles here has brought up, I've been a lifelong gamer pretty much since the first time I played Super Smash Bros. As something like a 4-year-old. I've just been camped out in front of consoles and TVs, and these days I bring more of the PC gaming side, which has been somewhat lacking on this podcast, I think. But,
what?
Called out!
Man. I'll have you know, I have a Mac laptop that I do plenty of PC gaming on.
Oh, Fisher-Price computers, jeez.
It's got nice big colored keys, and but yeah, so that's awesome. So we'll just talk, we're freeform here on the podcast. This is a conversational podcast. So what kind of moved you over to the PC space? Because I know Fliss here is this diehard console guy, and you guys, I assume, grew up in the same household. I don't want to bring up any dark pasts here, but what moved you more towards the PC space?
Well, the first kind of PC games that I got really into was that I got the Orange Box.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got it for Half-Life 2 and Portal, but the most hours that I put into it was that I ended up playing a lot of Team Fortress 2. I fell in love with playing Spy, sneaking around, stabbing people in the back, and since then it was just kind of see what other games PC offered.
Nice, yeah. Orange Box is an introduction for a lot of people. I mean, I know myself, I was a PC gamer, well, if you could call it that, when I was first growing up. I think like most of us, when families that want to buy consoles, you could just play, different Math Rabbit or even, the most basic games on the PC.
That's a great comparison. Thomas gets on here and says, you know what I fell in love with PC gaming? Stabbing people in the back. And Alex, you're just like, yeah, man, I totally feel that. Math Rabbit, that's just like that. Those things are totally
Math
equivalent.
Rabbit, Chex Quest, the real true classics on the PC. But that's really cool because Orange Box was a game that I picked up for PS3, and I had a very radically different experience because it was poorly optimized and kind of slow. It was back in the day when Valve didn't really know how to code for the PS3 because of the stupid cell-based processors. So that's cool. That's great. I assume you have a custom PC built, like most of the other in the PC space?
Yes, I built my first computer right as my freshman year of college started, and it has served me faithfully since.
Nice. I'm envious of running games on higher than like everything low, no shaders on, no physics on. So we'll get into that a lot. We got a lot. Thank you so much for being here, Thomas. You're also a mechanical engineer, applied scientist. And so what's it that you got? This family. You got Fliss, a social scientist, applied scientist, any scientist tension, brother tension. What do the folks have to expect this episode?
Well, I've listened so far, and for you guys, I think you've kind of dealt with maybe in your sciences the more theoretical side, but for myself, coming from an engineering background, it's what we're really about is making it work. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that for me, I'm about what works in practice, what really makes games great on their own.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds good, yeah. I know Fliss and I'd love to wax and wane poetic about the what-ifs and the larger concept, so it's a very cool perspective to have on the podcast.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's very true that sometimes, Alex, you and I are just like, it would be a great game if you could just have this thing and that thing, and I'm sure Thomas is sitting there thinking, that's impossible to code. Yeah, good luck with that one. But will that run? So I guess he's going to bring a very new perspective and have a different impact on the show.
So Fliss, what you're trying to tell me here is that we can't have No Man's Sky combined with Witcher 3, where every planet is a new Witcher 3? Is that not possible?
I mean, as long as we also have planets where we explore, what makes the gaming community great and how we interact with each other, I'd be okay with that. But since Thomas is slowly reaching for one of my kitchen knives, I think we better move on to another subject.
And a different planet, the whole thing is built in a fighting game engine. Come on.
And I want a planet where I can also play God and do like The Sims and SimCity at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, this is shaping up. I like it. This is the game. That's just what it's called. So you don't need any other games after that. The game. All right, we've chatted so much. Again, super special episode. We want to thank Thomas so much for already being on here, but we've got a lot to talk to today. He's also bringing a particular insight to our perspective section, so stay tuned, folks. So the impact factor is where I bring my perspectives as a biomedical scientist and combine them with, and sometimes against, Fliss's social scientist worldview, and hopefully Thomas's mechanical engineer worldview, to have great discussions about video games. Like I said earlier, we've had Gamescom this week. We've got the International 2015, or the International 5 happening this week. We got a lot to talk about. So let's get it started right away with some news and views.
News and views.
In an academic journal, News and Views collects the best of recent events and findings. Here, Fliss and I scour through the week in video game news to find the stories with the biggest impact. So, Fliss, as tradition mandates, what do you think was the most impactful story?
Actually, Alex, I have a huge story to drop on you right now.
Okay, drop it.
Are you sure? Are you ready for this?
Hot? I don't know. Am I?
Well,
it's pretty early here.
Renowned bad gamer and smooth, delicious voice podcaster Charles Fliss.
World famous person who sucks at Demon Souls.
That is so true it hurts. Physically.
The worst gamer of the Brotherhood.
That is not true. That is patently untrue.
Patently untrue.
Absolutely
yeah, we'll see
untrue.
About that. We'll see about that when you lose the bet. Anyway, get to your story.
My point is here that Charles Fliss, the man himself, bought a PS4.
What?
You heard me correctly.
Folks, this is folks. It's oh my god, I can't even process it right now. This is breaking news for the podcast. I didn't know. My co-host has a PS4. Ooh, it's a white PS. He's showing it. I need to describe for the audience what's happening on camera here. Fliss, with his nice chicken arms, picked up the shiny blue box.
Whoa. Look, my arms only look chickeny because I'm sitting next to my brother.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. One of the two Flisses here I see is swole, and I'm pretty sure it's not the guy with the afro.
You're gonna call me out for not being swole and call me out on an afro? Jeez, man, this is real talk with Alex Samocha again.
Real talk.
Anyway, my point is that I bought a PS4. It's a big deal. I'm into the next generation.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm doing the Evangelion thing here. Congratulations.
Yeah, man. I saw that episode. Wait.
Welcome.
Did you just make an anime reference?
I did. Welcome to the current generation, my friend.
Thanks. Now you have to buy a real computer.
That'll happen eventually. Wait, are one of those little laptops where it folds over on the top and that's a tablet? Does that count?
Not even close.
Take it. Awesome. So you bought a PS4.
Yeah, man. We Thomas is visiting me here in Japan, and we went out to an electronics store, found actually a really great deal on the new model, and picked it up in a bundle that includes Bloodborne.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I mean,
We can talk
unfortunately,
Bloodborne on the podcast again?
Unfortunately, the copy of Bloodborne it comes with is entirely in Japanese. So,
Oh, God.
if I beat
Wait.
Bloodborne in Japanese, I'm gonna want some serious gamer cred.
All right, you'll get some cred. Oh wow. There's no language option either.
Not to my knowledge.
Jesus Christ. Oh, have fun with that. Actually, you don't need to read so much. A lot of it is both mechanical storytelling and item descriptions. As long as you see the numbers, you should be fine. But still, it'll be a challenge.
Yeah, it's what I'm looking forward to. But when we get down to talking about reasons I haven't been playing Demon's Souls, one of them is because we've definitely been enjoying some Rocket League here.
Nice. Yeah. So Thomas, have you thought about getting a current gen console, or does a PC kind of take up that space? I know increasingly with this generation, at least, exclusive titles have kind of been fewer than ever before. So, do you feel compelled to pick up like a PS4 or an Xbox One at all, or what do you think about your brother's decision here?
Well, I for one am really glad that my brother got a PS4, so I don't
Okay.
have to. But
Nice.
no, as far as consoles, the one that I had my eye on the most was the Wii U.
Okay.
And it's kind of always felt like it was one or two games away from being a compelling buy. There hasn't been an F-Zero game for it, which I really want. There hasn't been a Star Fox game out yet, which I really want. And the Smash Bros. Game for it, I got for 3DS, and I was a little disappointed, to be honest. It's a great game, but it's not the game I wanted. So, short answer, no, I have not really honestly been thinking about getting a console.
Yeah, no, I feel you though, Thomas. I see where you're coming from, because I also got the new Smash Bros. In 3DS, and while like I acknowledge that it's great and fun, like it didn't have that. Maybe it's because of the format on the 3DS, or maybe some other factors, but it didn't have that same feeling that playing Brawl or Melee or the N64 version the first time had. Like it was fun, but maybe almost so expected that it just didn't grip me. I don't know if your feelings were shared.
Absolutely. I mean, at some level, I'm one of those people who really wants another Melee, but even accepting that it's going to be its own game, I wish I could put my finger on it, but it felt lacking somehow.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's awesome though. Fliss, you got a PS4. I can finally stop harassing you to get one. That's definitely most impactful news this week.
Yeah, man. So, hey, speaking of PS4, I think one of the games that I'm most looking forward to on PS4 is Star Wars Battlefront. And Thomas, there was some news about Battlefront this week, right?
Yes, indeed. We've had a dogfight mode announced, and apparently it's going to be up to around 20 combatants, which means fairly large matches for kind of a flying game. I mean, I've played a fair bit of War Thunder, free-to-play World War II fighter game, and a lot of the matches in that end up being only around maybe 4v4 or 5v5 at most, so having a 10v10 match is huge. It's also very exciting because in some of the previous looks at Star Wars Battlefront, it seemed like the map area for flying around wasn't actually going to be that big.
Yeah.
So having a whole independent mode for fighters is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you, Thomas. This is a big story because Battlefront is shaping up to be one of the biggest games this fall. And this I think it's called Squadron Mode. I'm not sure on the name here. But not only is it 10v10, but DICE has also said that they're throwing in a bunch of AI controlled vehicles, and so it's hoping to replicate what we see in, like, especially the prequels, but even the original movies, where you've got just, like, dozens of StarCraft flying around and shooting stuff. So, like, at least in the gameplay trailer they showed, there's, like, a lot of X-Wings and Y-Wings and TIE Fighters shown on screen at any time. And I know, at least for someone who's maybe less skilled, like probably I will be when I pick it up, like, it's going to be satisfying shooting down these AI.
Definitely you will be when you pick it up.
I was good at Battlefield on the ground game, but I never really got the hang of vehicles.
So what you're saying is you suck with vehicles. That's what I'm hearing here.
With air vehicles, I was good with tanks.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, so it seems really cool, and they keep adding modes, because one of the things that worried me with Battlefront, because I've never played the franchise before, was that there's no single-player mode at all. And so if it was just going to be team deathmatch or whatever the objective-based move from point A to point B to point C to point D, like down the map, like is typical Battlefield style, I was worried, like, well, is that going to be worth $60 plus the extra $60 they want for all the DLC packages? But this looks cool. This looks exciting.
Yeah, I think it's better that they're focusing only on multiplayer. I mean, a lot of games, particularly say shooters like your Call of Duties, the single player modes really feel tacked on sometimes and kind of extraneous when you're really just buying it for the multiplayer. And so for a game like Star Wars Battlefront, where I think it's better to acknowledge that the multiplayer is what everyone's there for and only focus on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And especially with all the trailers we've seen, I think that, and in the interviews we've read, I think that their focus here on saying what we're trying to create is making you feel like you're in the big battles of Star Wars. And so, yes, like it kind of looks like, Star Wars Battlefield. But, if that manages to replicate that feeling that we all got when we first saw some of these big battle scenes, back when, like a big battle scene was something that we hadn't really seen before in film. If it replicates that feeling, I'm totally with it. And actually, Thomas and I had a really cool experience a couple days ago. We got to go to a really big arcade down in the city, and they had just released a Star Wars Battle Pod, which is this arcade game that gives you a projector screen that wraps around your seat and gives you two controls, one a joystick for shooting and the other one a standard control for throttle. And it's basically an on-rail shooter that lets you play different scenes out of the original trilogy. But even just playing on this a fully kind of full-body immersive on-rails shooter and replaying the first run of the trench to blow up the Death Star was such a rush. And so right on the heels of stepping into an X-Wing cockpit to do that, getting this announcement that's like, hey, you can play in this big squadron mode with all this dogfighting and all these different ships available that you can try out or that you can shoot down, just really, really got me excited about the game in a way where I'd been cautiously optimistic that it would be great, and now I'm like actually excited about it. Like, really, man, I'm going to be honest, I saw a link on Amazon to pre-order, and I thought...
Don't do it!
I'm not going to, but the thought crossed my mind. The thought crossed my mind. It was there.
So pre-ordering Street Fighter V, like, I didn't make sense, because not only can I cancel the pre-order, but Capcom has at least a decent history of things working at launch. DICE and the Battlefield, battle thing, no, their history is not so good with things working when they should. Oh, but that's awesome. So this news came out of Gamescom, which is essentially European E3. It's the biggest video game conference, industry event over in Europe, and we have a ton of Gamescom news to get into. A lot of really impactful stories. We're probably going to skip a lot of maybe what you folks want to be discussed, so please email us at impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com if we missed one of the cool stories from Gamescom. But I think my most impactful story, and there's a lot here, I'm going to go with Dark Souls 3. As I'm sure is a surprise to both of you.
Shocked. Absolutely.
Just shocked. So this is a game I was skeptical about at first, right? I love the Souls franchise. So we've gone through this dance. But Dark Souls 3 marks the third Souls game in 3 years. And annualization of a series and a franchise is something that gets me nervous. It's not to say that Call of Duty games are bad per se, but it's the same game every year, and you know what to expect, and yada yada yada. It stymies innovation, but that hasn't happened so far for the Souls series. So I kind of moved out of that place of hesitation, got excited, and so then it showed gameplay at the Xbox event at Gamescom, and I am so excited. Dark Souls 3 looks to take clear inspiration from Bloodborne. It looks so much faster than Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 even. They've got the blood splatter, and just basically it looks like it addresses a lot of fan concerns. They've kind of on the worst the systems that people like less in Dark Souls 2, they've scaled those back. One of the biggest complaints was that the boss design in Dark Souls 2 was among the series' worst. Is you fought a bunch of big dudes with swords, and just from this trailer, the bosses they showed are crazy. There's this lanky kind of skeletal thing with a flaming sword. One thing is this giant Attack on Titan sized face monster thing, and the combat is fast, fluid. The lore seems cool. I'm not sure how I feel about the speed of the combat. It looks something and maybe in between Demon Souls and Bloodborne.
You made 2 anime references.
Okay.
On the podcast. I don't even know how to. I'm going to be honest. I didn't listen to anything you said after the Attack on Titan because I was just so amazed. Do you watch Attack on Titan?
If it makes you feel any better, I've never seen it.
So you're making references to things you have no idea about.
I know what it is. I don't need to see it.
What is it?
It's an anime where people fight giant naked monster things.
Pretty much.
Yeah, right? Thomas has my back here. I heard it gets terrible after the first couple episodes.
It gets weird when they start turning into the giant naked monster thing. I don't know.
That's not something I do. But
yeah, I'm not an Attack on Titan fan. I just
no one's seen this. Anyway, you fight giant monsters. The heads are big. I find
you've said a lot of ridiculous things on this.
You've seen a lot of ridiculous things.
That's one of the most ridiculous. But yeah, man, I totally agree. Dark Souls 3 looks really cool. Giant bosses, a variety of bosses. It's so different from what so many games out there are like, and it looks like it's different than Dark Souls 2 in so many ways, like you said. So hopefully this is not so much an annualization as it is just this happens to be when the next game was ready.
Exactly. And I think unlike those other games that are annualized, like the Call of Duties, you can get experiences similar to them in many other games. But even though a couple other people have tried, nobody has been able to really replicate the Souls feeling, the Souls experience. So these games are uniquely, Souls games. From Software kind of has this monopoly on this feeling and this style and this tension that are only found in Souls games. And honestly, I could deal with a Souls game a year if they stay at this level of quality. So I'm super excited. 2016 looks awesome.
Yeah, man, definitely cool. Well, hey, we know that Souls Talk is definitely one of Alex's things here on the show, and one of my things is definitely Hots Talk.
Okay, Hots Talk.
And so while we're sticking with Gamescom news, 3 new characters were announced for Heroes of the Storm, right? We got trailers for 2 of them, and we got just kind of a tease of the 3rd, and those are Karazim the Monk, a melee support character from the Diablo world, Rexar the Hunter of Warcraft fame, and he'll be ranged warrior class. Go ahead and figure that one out, folks. And
Migo Face?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just feel like he should have been an assassin. Face.
If the other team has fort, me still go core.
Exactly. There should have. You know what? One of his ultimates should have just been like to the face. Like he destroys the enemy's fort. Ta-da! You're done. You hit level 20, you win. Face on it. But no, and then finally we also got. I'm gonna probably get this pronunciation wrong, but Artanis. Artanis?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never played
Artanis,
StarCraft, so I guess it's good as mine.
And he's from StarCraft. Seriously, in the show notes, Alex wrote SC, and I almost read that as Soul Calibur. Don't do that to me.
The next character in Heroes of the Storm is going to be Yoshimitsu. Duh.
Yeah, man, that would be great. I would be all about that. I would pay real money for that. Blizzard, if you're listening. Thomas, you would pay real money for Yoshimitsu?
Oh, yeah. Gotta love bouncing around on my sword. Pogo
yeah,
sword.
Right? That'd be great. Just hop on top of a fort until it breaks down.
That'd be awesome. But no, unfortunately, right, he's from StarCraft and another warrior. So that's good, right? Warriors are definitely a very valued class. There aren't quite enough of them in the game right now, so getting 2 new ones is going to be great. Getting a little more melee focus from Artanis being melee support, or excuse me, from Karazim being melee support will be great. And they also announced a new map and I'm not thrilled by it. I'm gonna be honest. I want to be hyped about these heroes because I'm all about more heroes, but the new map kind of just looks like, oh, we kind of sort of maybe reskinned Battlefield of Eternity, and like we used all the same assets and like changed a few points around, and it's just like you fight over bosses and the bosses win the game for you.
I mean, aesthetically, yeah, it looks the same. But I think one of the interesting things on that map is it looks like the map objective. So most of Here's the Storm differs from a lot of other MOBAs, even though I guess this is called a hero brawler, and that there are map objectives you need to play for. And these map objectives will usually help you to push down enemy structures. However, it looks like in this new map, the objective you're playing for doesn't really go after enemy structures, but more goes after enemy players. So it's interesting. It looks like to help more in team fights rather than in pushing into your enemy territory. So I think it could be interesting. But I know Thomas has played some Here's the Storm. Huh?
Yeah, and I really like the idea of new maps. I have played quite a bit of Dota and a little bit of League of Legends, and the thing about those games is that while they're very fun and very interesting, you end up on the same map every single time. And so that sort of limits the variety of strategies that you can go for game to game. So more maps, more varied map objectives, it definitely adds a nice layer to the game.
Yeah, and I've heard too, like, at first there was, I saw a lot of derision towards Here's the Storm because it's kind of the new mobile on the block. But the more I've kind of learned about watching Dota, and, a little bit of League of Legends, but more so Dota, and then having played a lot of Heroes of the Storm, I'm now profile rank 40, which is the max. Congrats to me. Is that...
I'm sorry, but you're still king of the babies.
Still king of the babies. Yeah, maybe that's true.
What sick man sends babies to fight me?
Yeah, right. It just seems that, like, Dota 2 was kind of like... Dota was the originator, and you had, like, Heroes of New Earth and League of Legends that basically just take Dota and tweak it slightly to make a different game, whereas it seems like, at least from my perspective, that Heroes of the Storm is something that's designed from the ground up, knowing what works about MOBAs and what's fun, but then making one that's, like, pretty drastically different.
Absolutely, and I have to respect Blizzard for not just making the same game again, because if they had just tried to make Dota again, or League again with minor changes, it would probably have failed, right? Mm-hmm. And choosing to make something that is truly different is it's definitely better to make their own thing.
So how do you feel about, speaking of things that are different, how do you feel about the map objectives in Heroes of the Storm?
I think they're interesting. They're kind of hard to adapt to, I think, actually. I found playing HOTS from Dota that it was kind of easy to team fight and it was kind of easy to lane, but it's difficult for me to work out just immediately what I should be doing with map objectives, like how to play them, how to incorporate them into my strategy. So to me that says that's pretty interesting, right? Because that's something that I can't just figure out. And so it's layers of complexity, and I like it.
So what about a map objective that is not like pushing a lane, but that targets enemy heroes to try and kill them? Because we don't know how that's going to work with XP. And I mean, what do you think about the possibilities for that?
I'm a little suspicious of it, to be honest, because I think if you have something that's going after killing heroes, it's kind of like, well, why am I not just going and killing them myself? But we'll see, right?
Yeah, I mean, and they haven't talked a lot of details about it. Just from what they've shown off, it looked like the entities targeted enemy heroes more, but they showed Leoric's, one of Leoric's ults, like killing 3 people in a row, which never happens. So who knows? They haven't shared a lot of details, but yeah, no, I agree with Thomas too. I don't have a lot of Dota experience, but even now I'm kind of figuring out the complexity, because there's certain objectives you absolutely must play right away, ignoring laning, but sometimes it's actually better to have one person stay like in their lane to get experience points, and then a couple other people to fight for objectives, and it's interesting. Even though if you're playing quick match, more than likely if you're not playing an objective, your entire team will flame you, even if you think you're doing the right thing. So,
well, if you're playing a MOBA, your entire team is probably going to flame you no matter what you're doing.
Oh man. I had played 3 games in a row where we handily won, and I had someone on my team be like, "Wow, you guys suck." What? We're winning by a lot. What do you mean we suck? You suck.
Now you know my pain, Alex. Now you know.
You weren't playing this week, so they all managed to find their way into my games. God dang it.
Man, so wait, so you're going to blame this on me? You're going to still pin this on me?
Yeah, of course.
And you're right, I was not on Heroes of the Storm this week. I haven't touched it, actually.
Well, I know.
I've been good.
I know.
I've been good.
So Thomas, any other Gamescom news you thought was exciting?
No.
All right. That works. That works. A couple other things came out of it that I think are pretty interesting. For the first time, Xbox showed off Scalebound, which is the new... It looked okay. It looks okay.
No. Look, here, let me tell you how much I care about Scalebound. Not at all. Scalebound makes me less excited.
But you're like Dante from freaking Devil May Cry, who rides a dragon, and it's open world.
Xbox One exclusive.
Whatever. Come on, man. We're not fanboys here.
You're not gonna buy an Xbox One, Alex.
I'm not.
Scalebound's not a good enough game to make you buy an Xbox One.
No, definitely not. It looks cool. Speaking of Xbox, all future Xbox 360 games that come included with this Games for Gold service, which is kind of a riff off of PlayStation Plus, are now going to be backwards compatible. And then we know one of the biggest news of E3 from the Xbox press conference was that they have this new backwards compatibility feature, and it's launching in November, and there's going to be over 100 titles, and it's free, which is nice. Like, you don't have to pay money to access, putting in your 360 discs or division. So it's more good news. I think it's more good news from that side. It's cool. I think Xbox is really poised to kind of make up a lot of the ground they've lost this fall, and if they don't, they're never going to.
No, absolutely, and you can see that they're already gaining numbers right now over the past month or so. I think that going into the holiday season, Xbox will make a very strong showing, but I think as we see the start of 2016, they're going to fall behind again, because if PlayStation's announced releases come out on time in 2016, PlayStation's just going to win. No question. 2016, at least the first half of 2016 will go to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Actually, I lied to you a second ago because I am pretty excited about this. While I don't have an Xbox One, I'm always excited to see the main companies implementing backwards compatibility. I know it is something that not necessarily 100% of gamers care about, but a few of us do care about it a lot. And for instance, I would definitely like to see the Nintendo NX have backwards compatibility with the Wii U, so I can go after my Pikmin 3s and whatever other games catch up.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, Thomas. Yeah, because, in certain contexts, if I know some people bemoaned that the PS4 didn't have backwards compatibility, but, I have a PS3 as well as a PS2 and a PS1, and I've played my library of games. I'm happy. I'm glad that I didn't have to pay more for system or more for more for the console itself or more for online program or whatever to have backwards compatibility. So it makes sense to me, and I was fine with it. But yeah, absolutely. If I want to jump on board the NX, like we've talked about, I've missed a lot of Wii games as well as Wii U games, and if it's backwards compatible with both, that'd be awesome. But especially Wii U games, like you said, the Wii U is something that I've been on the fence about. I know I'm pretty confident I'm not going to get one. But it'd be nice to play those couple Wii U games that people kind of rave about.
Yeah, and on kind of a different direction with this too, because I just basically completely agree with you guys about the Wii U. But I think that we're always talking about gaming and archiving our history as gamers, and I think that encouraging backwards compatibility, at least in the short term, helps us preserve more games and helps us kind of think about preserving more games. And there's been a lot of talk right now with the Rare collection coming out for Xbox about viewing it almost more as a historical document than as a game. And so I've read some very interesting reviews about that, and I think that we should be preserving these games. Now, do we necessarily need to be preserving them on $40 to $60 disc releases?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think that backwards compatibility, at least on a basic level, encourages us to remember that preserving the history of games is worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Archival is a serious problem for the game space, and the more that's done to do that, I don't want to get to a point where we lose a game forever. Unless you have the original, cartridge, the original disc, and the original console, you can't play. That's a nightmare. That's a
I
nightmare.
don't know, man. I mean, there are people willing to bury E.T. in the desert to make sure we lose that game.
Never to be found again. Honestly, I bet there's something more sinister. There's some sort of like virus, like Independence Day style, like alien virus or something on those cartridges. They're trying to do us a favor, but we've dug it up. What have we wrought?
What have we awakened? We have dug too deep.
All I'm going to say is, since the ET cartridges were dug up, California still hasn't received any rain. I'm just going to put it out there. ET caused the drought.
Maybe we need to launch him into space, you know?
Yeah, right. Launch him into the stratosphere or ionosphere.
E.T. go home! E.T.
Yeah, E.T.
go home!
Go! Oh, man. Man, we're on point today. So I'm going to take over your normal role, Fliss. We got fun fighting game news to talk about.
Fighting game news?
Yeah. So here now the first obligatory non-news about Street Fighter V that we feel compelled to include. Vega's going to be in Street Fighter V. That's cool.
Yay!
And so it is news. And when I was talking to Justine about it, she's like, "How is Vega being Street Fighter V news?" I'm like, "Shut up! He's news." Because
So
we
what you're
know
saying
that
on this podcast is that you're a jerk to your girlfriend, who is very understanding of the amount of time you've spent playing.
I'm
video
like, you
games
don't
with all the parents."
understand. All Street Fighter news is the most impactful news this week. Gosh.
I mean, while I kind of agree with you about the importance that Street Fighter has in our lives, I'm just
Maybe
saying,
my delivery could have been better. I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Alright, well, fill me in here. Who is Vega? Why should I care about it?
All right, so Vega, as his kind of general term, also known as Balrog because of some weird naming stuff, he is a Spanish fighter who uses a claw and a mask. He's an assassin. He first showed up in one of the iterations of Street Fighter 2. I'm not sure which one. I don't know if it's a classic or whatever spin-off of it. He's pretty famous for being a high skill level for inputs. He's a charge character, which means you need to hold back on certain buttons. So some characters are directional input characters, so like doing quarter circles, Z-sticks, where he's a character where you need to hold buttons like back for 2 seconds and then press a different button to make him do moves.
Thomas knows all about charge characters. He knows all about charge characters. In fact, when we were at the arcade this week, one of the great things about Japanese arcades is that they are all about archival. And we went to an arcade in Akihabara even earlier this week, and they had a beautiful Street Fighter 2 cabinet.
Ooh.
Still functioning.
Jealous.
And yeah, man, so we were sitting there, we put our 100 yen coins in to sit down and play, and I, of course, made the classic choice of Ryu, and Thomas made the classic mistake of choosing Guile without being able to play a charge character.
Yeah, I couldn't even do a Sonic Boom. It was rough.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, I feel you, Thomas. I don't like charge characters. I don't, whatever, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I want to get close to my opponent. How do I get close while holding back? Like, it doesn't make sense for me. So there's good news on that front. Street Fighter, or the people behind Street Fighter V have said for now that Vega is not a charge character anymore.
What?
Yeah, he's a circle input character.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it lowers the execution barrier. And just, I don't know, for me, it makes it more fun to play. So people have already kind of started complaining, like, charge characters are charge characters because their moves are usually pretty good, so you have to compensate by having it, like, you have to kind of wait to use them by using a charge, as opposed to being able to, like, spam them with just doing the quarter circle forward or whatever. But they said, if he turns out to be too powerful, they might make him a charge character again. So that's exciting. And then also, we know that Street Fighter V is going to have a limited roster. I think officially the launch roster is 16. 4 of which of those are new fighters. So it's also news, at least to me, because we only have 12 returning fighters, and there's a lot of Street Fighter characters that are super famous, super well-known, that a lot of people want to have in the game. And so, I mean, I guess I could have done without him, but it's exciting to see him make the 12, especially if they have a design idea for him.
Well, this is definitely a please be excited moment for me, because I am excited that he's going to be a circle input character, or possibly be a circle input character, but they could have announced almost any other character, and I would have been more excited.
DJ?
Yeah, absolutely. DJ's hilarious.
Wow. Well, okay. Guy? Yeah, that's what I thought. Nobody wants Guy in this game.
But, I mean, come on, like, announce somebody. Give me E Honda. Give me a grappler announcement.
Yeah, they could do it. But there's more fighting game news. we got some some Evo viewership numbers. So we talked a lot about Evo here. It's the world's biggest fighting game tournament. We got some Twitch stats. So there were 3.88 million unique viewers for the event, which is a 67% year-over-year growth for Evo viewership, and with 19 million total views. And that's huge. In 1 year, viewership grew by 67%. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's great.
But then obviously, like with the international coming up, we're going to talk about that in a second, folks, I promise. The viewership is still like very small compared to like Dota or League of Legends, but I mean, less so than the numbers themselves, but more so this growth. It's got me super excited. The more that can be done to grow these scenes, is the more they're going to we're going to be accepted, they're going to get bigger, we're going to see them in different forms and in different ways. And so growth is key here, and that's a huge amount of growth.
Yeah, that's so big. And we talked about this before and how excited we were and how good a tournament it was this year. So hopefully all those new people who tuned in really enjoyed the show. Thomas, did you get to see any of Evo?
Yeah, I watched live. I watched a lot of Smash 4, and then I went back and watched a bit of the Smash Melee Top 8, as well as some of the Street Fighter. I only watched pools, actually. But I think one of the great things about this particular Evo was that I don't have any data to back this up, but I imagine Smash 4 brought in a lot of people who weren't necessarily interested in the other games, and then hopefully they watched some of those other games like Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, and that kind of gets them more involved in fighting games, kind of brought them in.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that, Thomas, because I was very surprised at the viewership for Smash 4. Like, it was way bigger, because, you have the Smash scene, they're divided, they don't know which game they want to support, but the viewership for Smash 4 up until, like, the finals was pretty much on par with what the viewership for Melee was, at about, like, I forget the number exactly. But, so, yeah, I could absolutely see people who've picked up a Wii U or just, like, Smash, tuning in to see Smash play, and then, hopefully they saw the Street Fighter Grand Finals and are like, I gotta pick up a Street Fighter game.
Yeah, I mean, Alex and I are both really into the traditional fighting scene, but Thomas, you play a lot of Smash, right? Like, you play a scary amount of Smash, like, to the point where when I went home for Christmas break, you pretty much wiped the floor with me in every Smash game available.
I have a slightly embarrassing amount of hours on both Project M and Melee.
Ooh.
Captain Falcon main, show me moves.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I were good at Smash, but that's one of those things that's just fallen by the wayside when you don't have people to play with,
Yeah, for me it's one of those kind of sit around the dorm, if no one's got anything better to do, let's Smash.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know Fliss is big on Street Fighter. Does he make you play Street Fighter? Do you have any interest in Street Fighter 5? It is coming to PC, cross-play with PS4.
Yeah, I would be very interested in picking it up on PC. I have a USB arcade stick, and so hopefully I can get good. But
get good.
Mostly on Street Fighter, it's been that Charles convinces me to play so that he can wipe the floor with me.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Fliss.
What are you shaking your head for? We'll get on that Smash 5, and I'll wipe the floor with you too, Alex.
Oh, okay. We'll see. I'm the one who has some Street Fighter 5 experience under my belt. I'm just to remind viewers, I'm undefeated in Street Fighter 5 online at this point. So
you're undefeated in what, like 3 games and a boot?
Well, we're not talking numbers here. So yeah, I'm super excited. I want fighting games to get bigger. Got a last couple things before we move on here. We got more. Gamescom was kind of like BlizzCom. To complement their BlizzCon, there's more Hearthstone news. This is relevant for Fliss and I know. So they already announced the Grand Tournament. In their press event here, they announced this kind of new mechanic. It's this jousting mechanic. It doesn't have its own keyword. It doesn't say joust on the cards, but it's this cool battle cry effect where you choose a random minion from each of your decks and put them against each other, and they joust, and the one with the higher cost, if you win, you get some sort of beneficial effect. So that's cool. And they've also implemented, so one of the main complaints about Hearthstone players is that playing the ranked system, the ladder, is pretty unrewarding once you get past rank 20, which is like pretty much anyone can get past rank 20 if you play a little bit. So they're giving these highest rank rewards. So like the highest rank you've achieved in every season will be locked in, and then you get a little treasure chest at the end of the season that has some dust, which you can use to craft cards, or some golden cards, which are kind of fancy cards. And it's just a nice way of rewarding players for actually playing the ladder. And this, like, if you want, so far it's like you either get rank 20 or you try to get legend, and everything in between is just like, just grinding. So it's a small step in the right direction, but at least they're taking that step.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, the joust mechanic as a battle cry is cool. I think that it is going to help greedier decks. It's going to help decks with larger cost creatures to kind of get some advantages. It seems like some of the cards they've released so far are designed to kind of slow up faster decks, right? So, like, for example, the one they use in their video gains Taunt and Divine Shield if it jousts successfully, right? So those are both mechanics that are designed to slow the opponent's deck, right? So these are things to kind of help the greedier control decks, which, although they're not decks I enjoy playing against, they're decks that do belong in the meta. Then following on that, I really think that the locking in your highest rank is great. I think that that's awesome. I think that rewards you for continuing to try and continuing to play, because I've definitely gotten up to like rank 12 and just being like, well, that's as far as I need to get this season, and then just gone to Tavern Brawl for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, you just kind of like want to, once you get like near your highest, you just kind of want to stop. You're like, I don't want to lose it. I want at the end of the season to say how awesome I am. So it's good to be like, hey, we remember you were ranked 12. It's okay that you're ranked 16 now. We remember.
Right, and I think that it makes the end of the season much more rewarding, right? Because it's not just, here's your card back, it's like, oh, what am I going to pop open from my treasure chest? And obviously popping open gold cards and dust, and gold cards can be dissolved for lots of dust. There are things to kind of help you get the cards you want. But Alex, I'm most excited here because I now have an ally to try and help me persuade Thomas to play some Hearthstone.
Ooh.
Because he's resisting.
Actually, it's something I've debated right about on my blog. It's actually harder to recommend getting into Hearthstone right now. It's difficult right now to get in. I think for me, Thomas, it fulfills the same itch that Magic provided. I think it's a skill-intensive game that has kind of random elements that are fun. It's a nice, quick pick-up-and-play. Games are done, usually no more than 10 minutes. It's something, especially on your phone or your tablet, that you can easily play anywhere. I think it's well-designed. It's smartly designed. The aesthetics of the user interface are all great. But that said, it's increasingly hard for new players to get in with the sheer number of cards and the sheer amount of time and or money need to invest to have decks that feel powerful. And Blizzard hasn't really taken any steps in the right direction that way. So I would recommend it, but it's a more reserved recommendation.
Yeah, I honestly feel sort of the same way but different about recommending new players to get into Dota, because that's a game that I have enjoyed quite a bit, but it's kind of harsh for new players, and we might want to save this for experimental methods, but I have tried out Hearthstone for the very first time this past week. That's part of living with Charles for a little bit. You're going to play some Hearthstone.
Yeah, I'm sure he forced you to. Yeah, so it's interesting that you made that comparison, because I think both games could probably do well to encourage newer players to hop in, whether it be gold incentives or aesthetic incentives or something. But we'll get into that. So let's wrap this up. I'm just going to do a quick fire. There's a ton of Gamescom news that we didn't even talk about. Halo 5 is trying to be all esports. There was a very cringy fake esports match they showed on Xbox press conference. I recommend or don't recommend watching it. Crackdown 3 looks like Crackdown. Homefront of the Revolution looks cool, and it's set in Philly, and I went to school in Philly, so woo, go Philly. Quantum Break got a release date. There's a new Final Fantasy 15 trailer that was kind of emotional, and they promise it's still coming out in 2016, even though in the course of a year they said it's gone from them, Square Enix, saying it's 55% done to 65% done, so God, this game's never coming out. Mirror's Edge had a gameplay trailer that looked awesome. I'm really excited for Mirror's Edge Catalyst. And then Mafia 3 has kind of taken an entirely new direction for crime open world games. Looks interesting. Lots to talk about Gamescom. I'm sure we'll probably piece stuff into next show. But we'd love to hear from the community the news items you all thought had the biggest impact. So please feel free to shoot us an email. That's at impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com. So, Flisses, now it's time to put things in perspective.
Perspectives.
Perspectives is part of the show, well, when any number of things can happen. In academia, it's when investigators share their opinions with the community at large. Here, it's a revolving section where we experiment with what's worth discussing. Usually, Fliss and I will pick out an editorial piece to discuss it together, but that's not what we're doing today. We have very special perspectives. Thomas, we brought in for a number of reasons. Faithful listener, good friend, longtime gamer,
Little
fellow
brother.
scientist, little brother.
Little
I guess that's so. I guess that's true. But Thomas is a Dota pro, and this week has been the kind of finals, I guess you want to call it, as week-long finals of the International 5. This is the biggest Dota tournament in the world. Just so happens to also be the biggest esports event of all time. There's a lot to get into here. So first, Thomas, just run us through your history with Dota. When did you get started? What grabs you about it? And why should we care about the International?
Well, first of all, let's be honest. I am not great at Dota. I don't actually want to mention my matchmatching ranking anywhere.
I'm pretty
where
sure he's like
here.
7K MMR, right? 7K MMR?
Trust me, I'm at least 6K.
Okay.
But the first time I ever played Dota actually was at a Metro High School lock-in.
Cool.
So that'll take you back.
Yeah, what an experience, man. We have some video game stories from those times, don't we?
Try to forget those times.
Yeah, so I got in back during Warcraft 3, and it really struck me as an amazingly complex game. I had no idea what was happening the first couple of times I played. Still could argue that I don't know what's happening.
I know that feeling very well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a common feeling among new Dota players. But yeah, so I've been sort of playing it on and off ever since. I got into the Dota 2 beta way back when. I was lucky enough to get an invite from a friend, and part of having that on a nice machine, being able to run it, is it's everything about that game is really tightly designed. The visuals are great, the music is great, the gameplay is really solid. So it's a very overall well-designed gaming experience, and that has done a lot to hold my interest.
So what exactly is Dota, Thomas?
Well, Dota is started as kind of the first sort of MOBA type game. I guess technically that stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, but it was so much the first of them that for a long time people were calling games like Heroes of New Earth or League of Legends Dota-likes. And so it's sort of like the interface is like an RTS, but you only have one unit. And the idea is to, over the course of the game, grow your unit in terms of levels and item resources, and then take objectives, right? Because at the end of the day, the goal is to destroy the enemy base.
So then, jumping off from that, the International is a big Dota competition, right? I'm kind of right here?
It is, in fact, the biggest Dota competition.
I'm kind of right here.
In fact, the biggest digital sports event of all time.
Pretty sure you mean esports.
Oh, God.
Esports.
Esports!
Yeah, so the big deal for the community about the International is that the prize pool started, I don't know the exact number, but the prize pool started at about, I think, $1 million to $1.5 million, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I remember seeing when the which I'm sure I'll talk about, when the compendium first launched, it was like, about $1 million and a half.
Right, so the compendium being a $10 item available in the in-game Dota shop, which is sort of a system to encourage item drops, cosmetic items, that is, in-game, but also it has a lot of details about following the tournament, right? So it's got predictions about qualifier teams, predictions about invites, you can enter who you think will win, who your favorite player is, your favorite team. It's got 10 hero challenge, so it's a lot of fun to have if you're into it, to follow the tournament. But possibly more importantly, for every $10 compendium purchased, $2.50 out of that goes toward the prize pool, which is now at around or maybe a little over $18 million. So
God,
that's a lot of compendiums sold.
Yeah, 250.
That is
so
ridiculous.
17 million divided by $2.50. Jesus.
Wait, so
God.
is all of the prize money at the International funded from compendiums?
Well, almost all of it. All of it except, I believe, that first million and a half. So
Yeah. So the team. So again, this Dota is this worldwide sensation, has been for a long time, still is now. I think it's very interesting because it's a very global game. You see, especially Europe and now China, or maybe not now China, but Europe and China especially have a lot of teams that make it to these finals. And so the International has a long build-up to it, right? There's a lot of qualifiers, there's a lot of tournaments that people need to get to just to qualify to compete in this tournament to get to this week-long finals event.
Right. Well, several teams were invited, and then more teams had to play through qualifiers to get to a wild card spot to place into the actual tournament.
Nice. This is happening in Seattle. $18 million prize pool. The winning team gets around roughly $6.5 million to split between the 5 players, I would assume.
Well, that money, certainly most of it would end up going to the players, but actually a lot, or at least some portion of it, would go to the organization surrounding the team.
Right.
So,
right.
These teams are not actually just like 5 guys really good at Dota decided to go play. There's like managers and sponsors, and it's a whole deal.
So there's like a whole
sports
sporting
teams
apparatus around this, the same way that you see like the assistant coaches and trainers and things like that walking the field at a football game.
Yeah, you could say that. Coaches have maybe less of an impact, but they're definitely present, and there's a lot of support staff.
Yeah, so because I know, for example, one of the teams, I didn't see the results from last night, so I'm not sure, but EG is a team I'm rooting for, Evil Geniuses,
The Great
because
American
they're a big
Hope.
Yeah, the Great American Hope, because they're I've seen them so often in fighting games. One of my favorite players, I think one of a lot of people's favorite players, Justin Wong, is sponsored by EG. So I've been
Justin
following
Wong.
them. I mean, he barrel rolled on stage when he won Marvel last year, so come on. But yeah, so it's kind of cool. You very much, we talk a lot about how esports is taking inspirations from real sports and the power and danger of both of those. But yeah, these teams seem to be a pretty integral part because of scouting this talent, finding these people, promoting the players, getting them into these invited tournaments, getting them to these other tournaments, and so that's interesting. But just to put this money in perspective a little bit, so I'm not sure, even ignoring, at least for now, the team's cut of the $6.5 million prize pool. So a player who wins the Super Bowl, I looked this up, the player bonus is about $92,000 to $95,000. And if you assume that the minimum salary for rookie players in the NFL, which is kind of crazy that this is the minimum salary, is $390,000.
I'm gonna jump on my social scientist soapbox here and just say this is the power of a strong union. That's what happens when you've got a strong union. That's what happens.
I'm just saying, I knew baseball, and like the minimum starting salary for like a baseball player is like 100 or something like that. So
to be fair, though, like baseball will also not wreck your brain.
Yeah, that's true. So assuming that you have a rookie player who wins the Super Bowl, I'm thinking he's probably still making a substantial portion less than somebody who wins the International 5. I think we could at least say that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say.
And that doesn't count the other, like, this isn't the only money tournament in Dota. Like, throughout the year there are money tournaments, because I've seen some of, like, the best players, they reckon quite a bit of money playing Dota.
Yeah, there are tournaments throughout the year. There was a fairly major one, I think it was, I might be getting this wrong, but I think it was DAC about a month before TI, but a lot of teams play for TI. They kind of go through the year not necessarily taking tournaments as seriously, maybe saving strategies. I mean, saving strats is kind of a joke going around. If a team is losing, okay, they're saving strats for TI. Don't worry, guys. But yeah, no, a lot of the teams kind of play through the year and then say for TI, okay, here's the money. This is the big one. Now we're gonna play.
Yeah. So Thomas, why do you think that Dota has become this huge phenomenon? So it's always been popular, but to the point where we have an entire, amphitheater, this whole stadium essentially rent out. The production value is insane. You've got this desk of commentators and everyone's wearing suits, and I'd say, for me, I think the announcing in Dota is perhaps the best in all of esports because it's a good mix of analytics and excitement. So why do you think Dota has gotten to this place where millions of people love playing it and perhaps millions more love watching it?
Well, I think in the first place, for it to get popular at all, I think one of the biggest things is, as you mentioned, the worldwide interest. There's certainly a lot of American players, but there's also tons of European players, Russian players, Chinese players. Surprisingly, not as many Korean players. Koreans usually very, very strong in esports, but either way, I think the worldwide interest and kind of maybe universal appeal of the game has been a big step toward making it as big as it is. And then going on the production value sort of thing, I think that's something that the community kind of wants. And partly it feels like with compendiums, right, like that's kind of players voting with their wallets and saying to Valve, right, if we're going to give you this much money for this event, you better make it good, right? Like, you better have a nice stadium and good commentators.
Yeah.
So do you think TI5 is living up to that? Do you think that this is bringing people what they want to see?
I think so. It's a bit of a nitpick, but I think a lot of the analysis is a little too statistics-based. And maybe that makes sense looking at laws of large numbers, looking at, say, a player's record on a hero or the hero's pick ban rate in the patch or in previous tournaments. And I think the analysis could stand to be a little more on the whole rather than looking at individual stats. But
as someone who doesn't know much about Dota, I agree.
You should watch the newbie stream.
I tried, but the production value on I think it was day 1 or day 2, it just was bad, and I don't know, wasn't as newbie friendly as I thought it might be. So yeah, they could do more work on the newbie stream.
I mean, you're pretty epically newbie at Dota. I mean, I say this as someone
I'm on Team Newbie. I'm on Team Newbie. Am I competing here? They're a team, right? That's a team.
Yeah, TI4 champs.
Yeah, TI4 champs. I was in TI4 champs.
I'm amazed, Alex. I just didn't know you had it in you.
I know. Well, I'm a man of many masks.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the production value, because I think a lot of the production value in esports such as League's LCS or, say, Dota's TI has been based around imitating sort of real sports, right? Like, we real sports now. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, right? I think it's good, having people wearing suits, have professionalism. But I think you could also stand to have maybe more casual commentary and relaxing a little bit and letting esports be their own thing rather than sort of constantly trying to look up to traditional sports and say, I want to be that.
Man, Thomas, we need to get you on the podcast more. That's what I've been saying forever. I totally agree, and that's one of the main, among many other things, one of the reasons I love the fighting game community so much, and EVO, is because you have such a diversity of staging, you have such a diversity of environments, and you have such a diversity of commentaries that really you can get all sorts of different takes, and, I think that's a large part of why a lot in the fighting game community don't want to be esports. They want to be competitive gaming or the fighting game community or whatever else, because when you derive too much, when you take too much from sports, it feels derivative and strange and bizarre. And I think this is kind of jumping all over the place, but one of the statistics comments you mentioned really struck home with me, because I love watching pro Hearthstone play. But the commentary in that is so bad. It's so dry and numbers-based and statistics-based, and it's like there's no excitement. Like, you need to get people in, and I think there's a huge need in all of esports and all of competitive gaming for, someone like Yipes, who commentates Marvel, who's just kind of this goofy guy that is always making up words and phrases and just is being excited for a game.
I think there's a real line here that we want to be careful with, because I agree with you. I really like the excitement in commentary, and I really think that esports commentary should be different than traditional sports commentary, because they aren't the same. And if you try to do, very heavy statistics-based traditional sports style commentary, you end up with something terrible like most Hearthstone commentary. But at the same time, I find that when I watch fighting games, I appreciate the kind of people who are more calm during most of it, because their excitement means more to me. Like, you get the people, some casters, who will just be like, and then it's an RKO into a blah, 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 and that's like almost unintelligible. And I appreciate how excited they are, and I appreciate that they're bringing the same kind of feeling that you get when you have a whole bunch of guys sitting around a TV. Excuse me, when you have a whole bunch of people sitting around a TV and watching games. But, like, I also want to know what's happening. And I find that sometimes it just goes so fast and with so much excitement that it's, like, almost less, like, commentary and more just, like, added excitement noise.
No, it's certainly a balance. I do have to say, though, oh, yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, sorry. Well, personal recommendation, if you want to watch some Dota and be excited but also know what's happening, find a game that is cast by Toby Wan, because he's been casting Dota forever, since Warcraft 3. And he knows a lot about the game, cares a lot about the game, and will make you excited.
Nice. Toby Wan, that's a good recommendation. It's good. Because I've liked the commentators, honestly. I've had, since I've had to work this week, I've just had the International on the background on my computer at lab, and it's, kind of funny. I'll be, I'll be planning some experiment, and then here, I think it's the guy from Philadelphia, I forget his name, something like TD or something, like, he has that very, like, good, like, excitement, like, voice, like, then there's something happening, oh my god, something's happening. So, I mean, it does get me a little bit excited, even though, I'm not a complete newbie, like, I know what a BKB is nowadays, but, and a Roshan.
Actually, knowing what BKB is puts you ahead of, like, 90% of pub players, like...
Hey, sweet. Hey, that's all, hey.
I am the 90%.
I'm a Dota player now?
I am the 90%. Somebody tell me what BKB is. I am the 90%.
Let Thomas handle that one.
Yeah, well, BKB, right, stands for Black King Bar, and it gives you immunity to all crowd controls, like slows and stuns and silences for a set number of time on a pretty long cooldown. And so it's a very important item for carry players, but it also requires some thought, right? Because you can't just leave it in your inventory. You have to think about when you're going to activate it. So everybody hates buying it, and you will only very rarely see it bought in pubs.
Nice, yeah, but it's huge here. Everyone's like, oh, they popped their BKBs, so like now they can't be crowd controlled, and your carries can like take them out. And then it's obviously, I've been noticing now how important it is to get Roshan, because that I think does it give you like a quick respawn or something like that?
Yeah, Roshan drops an item. Roshan is kind of one of the only objectives to compare to say HOTS. It's kind of one of the only map objectives in Dota, but it's a very large neutral monster, and when you kill it, he drops the Aegis of the Immortal, which if you pick it up,
right.
The next time you die, you respawn right where you're standing after about 3 seconds.
Nice.
So it's huge in a team fight, right? Because if you get the Aegis, then you have a 6v5 fight instead of a 5v5 fight, and so you're probably going to win the next fight.
Nice. So let's get in talking a little bit of the tournament itself. This is probably, again, for anyone who's listening, it's probably going to be a longer episode. We have a lot to talk about. We got a guest on. I'm not going to edit ourselves too short here. So the tournament, for me, has been pretty exciting. So what I've noticed so far, despite the joke at the top of the show I said about laning for an hour, the matches actually have been pretty... you get team fights... You've been getting pickoffs and team fights pretty early, and I don't know if that's part of the meta that you can speak to, Thomas, but I'm noticing that fights happen more often, at least in this TI, than I've noticed before.
No, Thomas, actually, you mentioned something about how there's usually an emerging meta at each TI.
Well, okay, yeah, there really is a lot to talk about here. So, first of all, as you said, Alex, there has been a lot of fighting, and the current kind of metagame is based heavily around fighting and pickoffs rather than farming. There have been a lot of really exciting games, a lot of comebacks, a lot of interesting drafts, and part of that is that in this current patch, a lot of heroes are viable, which means that a lot of strategies are kind of viable, a lot of combinations. This is also really great to see in TI5 because last year at TI4,
God,
the matches, especially going deeper into the tournament, especially the grand finals, were just honestly really boring. Very disappointing matches, a lot of them. And so it's great to see some really good Dota, which we have been seeing in this tournament. As for the metagame and sort of the emergent metagame, this tournament had a a pretty large group stage to decide the seeding for the main tournament. And so a lot of the heroes picked up in the group stage a lot of times are now being banned as teams are realizing, okay, this hero is really powerful. Gyrocopter is one hero that is now a high priority ban after stomping a lot of games in the group stage.
Yeah, I've been noticing, like, he's either, like, one of the first bans or one of the first picks, like, every game.
Yeah, well, he's a very powerful hero, has the potential to, like, two-shot a team if he gets farmed up.
Oh, jeez.
But then the meta kind of evolves, right? Because now we're seeing a lot of Luna pickups, because that's a hero that kind of does similar things to Gyrocopter but has her own unique advantages. And so a lot of teams kind of walk in to the tournament thinking it's going to go one way maybe, and then the game kind of shifts to go another. And that happened last year where the Chinese teams really got a hold of the meta, which was to push early and snowball off of towers. And so Newbie and Vici Gaming, the grand finalists, played really well off of that. And in this tournament, it seems like no one has quite exactly figured out the metagame completely. So we're getting a lot of interesting matches.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And there has been I think for me at least, now that I kind of am familiar with most of the heroes, though, that's something I wanted to ask you too. There does seem to be one of the highest diversities I've seen. This is the third international I've tuned in for. But I noticed certain heroes get picked up a lot. So I think Lena, Gyrocopter gets picked up. I'm seeing a lot of Naga Siren, Shadow Fiend, I think too. Are all those, like, I know Naga Siren's a support, but is it carries you find that are the ones that are dominantly picked most often, or is it just like the most powerful characters regardless of role?
It is kind of the most powerful characters regardless of role. What you see in first picks and bans is usually carries, because you can pick a carry without really revealing your strategy. And then in the second phase, I'm actually not 100% up on my drafting strategy, so I might get this kind of wrong, but in the second phase, you usually go for mids or off lanes, because they're powerful and sort of semi-priority. And then in the last phase, you'll go for your supports.
Gotcha. Though Naga Siren gets picked relatively early. Is that just because she's so powerful of a support?
Well,
sorry, folks, we're going into the weeds here, but we have him on the show. I got to talk some Dota because I'm really curious about this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, right? Because Naga Siren is a hero that is extremely versatile. It can be run as a support, and it can also be run as a carry. And you could maybe get away with running it as an offlane or a mid even.
Wow.
But yeah, it's the thing about Naga is that it can be a split pusher, it can be a strong team fighter, and so that hero is so versatile. It does a million different things, right? That you want to pick it up or ban it early, because if you pick it up early, it is one of those heroes where it doesn't reveal anything about your strategy.
Yeah, so you're talking about revealing your strategy. What are the kind of picks that like do reveal your strategy? And because Alex was just saying that, you know, like your supports are coming in last, and then what happens that gives your strategy away to the other team? Okay,
so an example of a hero pick that would give away your strategy, and one that has been fairly popular in the tournament, is Anti-Mage. So Anti-Mage is a very strong hero after he gets 3 items. And he kind of needs to spend the first, 15 minutes of the game just farming. And he can't contribute until he's got at least, 15, 20, 25 minutes of farm. And then he hits a window where he's really powerful for about from 25 minutes to 40 minutes in the game. So if you pick Anti-Mage, you're telling the other team, hey, we want to guard our Anti-Mage for 25 minutes, and then we want to roll you over 15 minutes after that.
Gotcha. That's really cool. So speaking of heroes, something we talked a little bit of Heroes of the Storm with heroes, and at least recently they've been adding a new hero every 3 weeks to the game. What's the rate of new heroes added to the game for Dota? This doesn't necessarily refer to the international itself, but I'm noticing some heroes that maybe either I just didn't pay enough attention, but seem new-ish at least, or newer to the game.
Well, the rate is much, much slower, and I am a little salty when I say that actually not 100% of heroes in Warcraft 3 Dota are in Dota 2. We're still missing Pit Lord, and we're still missing Arc Warden, and it's like, come on, it's been 5 years or something. Where are these heroes? There can't be, there can be that many bugs around them, but hopefully, if Valve ever finishes adding the Warcraft 3 heroes to Dota 2, they'll start working on developing new hero concepts. But for now, it seems pretty static, I guess, as far as the hero roster.
Gotcha. So I have two more quick questions, then we can wrap up on your favorite teams and how you think the international is going to go. My first quick question is, I heard everyone hates the techies, and techies are ruining Dota play. What does that mean?
Techies is an absolute nightmare to play against. Techies does not play Dota. You don't pick techies when you want to play Dota. You pick techies when you want to play the computer in Minesweeper.
What does that mean? I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, what?
That sounds awesome, but what does that mean?
Sorry. So, techies has 3 out of the 5 skills is even more than that, is to put down a certain type of mine, right? So the first skill is to put down an explosive mine that's invisible. The second is to put down a mine that stuns you. His ultimate is to put down a mine that can be remotely detonated, right? Remote mine. And then he's got a Suicide Squad attack, which is that he kills himself. He does a huge amount of damage to a given target, and so the other team doesn't get any experience or gold off of that because it's a deny. So all he does is runs around putting down mines, so you're scared to walk anywhere on the map unless your hero just randomly blows up, and runs up in your face and blows up on you and kills you.
Oh,
so
man.
Why isn't techies in every match? Because this sounds like the only thing I would do if I understood the basics of Dota.
I was already thinking that's Fliss
there are a lot of
right
people
there.
like you. No, well, the thing about techies, right, is that if you're picking techies, you get a lot of map control because you make your opponents kind of scared to walk around. But at the same time, any kills that techies gets off of mines only serve to kind of snowball the techies. They don't really snowball the rest of the team. And then when it comes time to actually fight, techies doesn't really contribute much to a team fight. So you're kind of going in 4v5.
Gotcha.
Is there a build or a strategy that runs well with techies?
I would say a farming build, because you want to. The reason you would take techies is to deny a lot of area on the map, and as I say, map control, kind of make more of the map safe for, say, your core, like say an anti-mage or a gyrocopter or a Luna. Give them space to farm, give them time, so that they can kind of make up for that gap that techies will have later in the game. And
nice.
There's kind of a joke. One of the casters at TI5 Blitz has been saying that the way you have to play against techies is to just pretend it doesn't exist. You walk somewhere, your hero blows up, just well, that's a bug. Got to report it to Valve, and that's kind of true, right?
Oh man, it almost reminds me a little of Murky in Heroes of the Storm. Just your best plan is to just ignore Murky. So, it's cool. And then my one other quick question, guys, this is going long, but I saw some sort of tweet about some team went for an extra 21 mana, but ended up losing $6.5 million. Some sort of something like that. Does that...
That actually
someone
doesn't
went for mana?
ring a bell, sorry.
Okay. Maybe I'm just seeing random stuff. All right, so now that we've get...
Wait. I got another Dota question for Thomas. Although this is just a
Oh,
little
gosh.
fun off-topic one. Thomas, who is your hero
Oh, nice.
in
Let's
Dota?
go. Let's go on.
Who do you play?
Well,
Techies?
Not techies ever. I'm actually all about Storm Spirit. I love playing Storm Spirit, which is great because he's overpowered in this patch and he's getting picked and banned all the time. So I'm getting to see Storm Spirit games. Love it.
Nice. All right, so now that we've there's 2 days left. We're recording this on a Thursday. This will go up on a Friday, which is 2 days left after that. Thomas, is there a particular team or particular player you're rooting for that you think, or a team that you're rooting for, or a player you're rooting for, and then a team that you think are going to win? So the ones you like and the ones you think are going to win.
Well, hopefully by the time this podcast is posted, EG Evil Geniuses will be steamrolling the competition and moving on to the grand finals. They are sort of the last American team, the best American team, so I'm being patriotic and rooting for them. But as for who's actually the best, that's really hard to say. It seems like we actually are in kind of an any given Sunday sort of a meta where any team can beat any team. I'm going to put my money on Oh, geez. Yeah, it's hard. Well, Secret's the favorites, but they're not doing well, so I'll say EG's going to take it. Yep.
Nice. All right. I'm EG too. I'm EG all the way. US boys.
Yeah,
USA
man.
Hype.
Represent. We gotta support EG.
And then I saw that little documentary piece about Sunail or whatever, that 16-year-old player, and he seems awesome. So definitely root for EG.
Yeah, actually, hey, speaking of those documentary pieces, one thing I've been really enjoying is the player profiles. A lot of the Western players are kind of just like, yeah, you know, I enjoy it. Thomas has a great summary of what a Western player is like, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a really good job with these player bios, but you watch them, and a lot of them, especially for the Western players, are like, yeah, I played since Dota 1 when I was like 8 years old. I was good at it. Played Dota 2. Was good at it. Decided I could probably make money off of it. Now I am. It's my story.
But, you know, you look at some of the other profiles, especially from a lot of the Chinese players, where they encounter a lot of resistance or get absolutely no support from their families. And we watched one today from one of the players from eHome. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one.
I think it was ROTK.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, I recognize that name.
Hey.
Points to you.
He's been in internationals before.
All of them, actually, I think.
Oh, nice.
But they were doing this player profile, and he was talking about how in his family, his father's side of the family was just like totally against him playing games, trying to be a professional with games, and the support he got was from his grandmother and his grandmother's side of the family. And they were doing interviews with him and with his grandmother, and they had him in just, you know, on camera to talk about the support he got from his grandmother, and he's just like breaking down and like can't even look at the camera while he's talking about it, and you can tell that it's just totally genuine. This is not a performance. This is not like I'm doing this to get people's sympathy. This is how much what she did for him meant to him. And then they cut over to the grandmother, and she's just beaming with pride. You can just see how happy she is. So, you know, obviously I'm rooting for EG, but a lot of these players have made it through some serious adversity to be there, and it's awesome to learn about that and to see them.
Bible thump, man. Bible thump. But, yeah, so it's been a great tournament so far. I think, Thomas, if you have any last words, we'll move on to experimental methods. But it's super excited. I'm going to watch a lot on Friday and then hopefully on Saturday, too, with the finals. So I'm excited.
My last words is please don't quote Twitch chat memes in your podcast. Please don't do that.
Oh, man. Twitch chat.
I gave you points, man, and now I have to take them away.
Well. Okay, well, there they are. So, now that our work is done and logged, let's get into our experimental methods.
Experimental methods.
In experimental methods, Fliss and I talk about the video games we've been playing recently. No papers or pipettes, cells or census here, just our words. We look at what works, what doesn't, and what we're looking forward to testing. So, start us off. Thomas, what experiments have you been running this week? I know you're gallivanting around about Japan, but you teased the folks earlier.
Yeah, well, as we said earlier, I did try Hearthstone, finally, for the first time, and I have to say, it's pretty interesting, it's fun, and I'm going to have to try really hard not to get into it when I'm back home, because I think that is all I will ever do if I do get into it.
Oh, yeah, that's one. I had a similar experience. People were talking about it, I downloaded it, I'm like, I'll try it out, I'm not going to play it that much, and that was like a year and a half ago. I still play almost daily, so that's not good.
Whereas my experience in this case was actually much more similar to my original experience at the game, which is when I was visiting Alex, and he sat me down on his couch and was just like, no, you're going to play this game. Download it on your computer right now, you're going to play it. So I had Thomas on a train rolling in the dark through rural Japan for an hour and a half, and I was just like, I got Hearthstone on my phone. You ready to play, or are you ready to play?
Nice.
Yeah, but I have to say, more than Hearthstone, what I've really been excited about playing recently is arcade games in Japan. And I have to say, I'm really jealous of the arcade culture here. I mean, they've got so many great games, like the Star Wars Battle Pod that Charles was talking about, Gunslinger Stratos. It's like amazing, Guns Akimbo kind of shooting game. We got to play, Time Crisis 5.
Oh, nice.
It's amazing to get to go play some arcade hoods in in a place like that. I wish we had them in the U.S.
Yeah, it's very sad. And arcade game experiences, like people have tried to make them over onto consoles or PCs, but you lose so much in translation that it just sucks. It sucks. It's very sad.
Yeah, one of the games that we got to play at the arcades was a Gundam Battle Pod. So again, the same idea as the Star Wars one, but actually with very difficult controls. And it's just, you can't replicate that experience in the home. Like, that's what an arcade should be. It should be having those experiences where that's the only kind of thing you can do, and you want to share that with other people, right? So they've got like 6 of these pods that are all connected if you want them to be. So it's just really neat stuff. And great for, going there together and getting to face off in all these different games.
Awesome.
Tons of fun.
So Fliss, I know you've also been traveling, gallivanting about, but what games are on your playlist? Demon Souls?
Well,
right?
so
you're making progress in Demon Souls?
This section is rapidly turning into Charles explains why he's not playing Demon Souls. I haven't touched Demon Souls. I want to, man. I want to play the game. I don't want to lose this bet, even though it's rapidly looking like I'm going to lose this bet. But stop looking so cocky over there. Wipe that smirk off your face.
All I'm saying is I'm excited to get a new hat, a new Sharks hat you're going to have to buy me.
Oh, Jesus. I'm just going to pull all-nighters for like 3 nights in a row to avoid that. You doubt me, but I'll take a whole day off work. If it's going to be a Sharks hat, come on, at least choose something else. Oh, the Sharks?
All right, 49ers.
Whoa.
Just kidding.
All
just
right,
kidding.
good. I know that our loyal listener, Rad Trooper here, a loyal Rams fan, will be there to help me co-op my way through Demon Souls now. Thanks for that. I needed
He's
that
gonna
help
coach you.
Review. No, I mean,
he's beaten it. He beat it recently. So
yeah,
go on.
The thing is, I've said this before, but the way I like playing Demon Souls is when I can sit down and play it for like at least 2 hours, and I really prefer being able to play it for like 4 to 6 hours at a go. Like, that's how, when I can like totally get into the game, like be patient, grind, like these are things I actually enjoy. And in Demon Souls, even because the grinding is so dangerous, like it's fun. Obviously grinding my way back to bosses is something I've complained about before, but I haven't been playing that at all this week. I wanted to, but I've been really busy traveling, going to arcades, and playing my new PS4.
Yeah, so a game we all have in our experimental methods section is a Rocket League.
That's right. Yeah, we've been enjoying a lot of Rocket League. First of all, I want to say that Rocket League is great, and I'm really enjoying it, but I have one serious complaint with it now.
That you got it for free, and you wish you could support the developer for making such an awesome game?
I mean, that is actually also, yes, a complaint, but I'm assuming that they're getting some support for it being part of PS Plus, and
yeah, absolutely.
It's that I want to play couch co-op, and I can't, because in order to play couch co-op, you have to have a second PS Plus account.
Really? To play online?
Yeah. We created a PS Plus, we created a PlayStation Network account for my brother to try and log him in to go online together, and obviously all the multiplayer in that is online. But we tried that, and it said, this account is not PlayStation Plus. So unless this is PlayStation Plus, you can't go online together. So I'm a little salty about that, because we're on my PlayStation.
Sucks.
I'm playing for PS Plus. I want my friends to be able to play online with me. So even if that's the way PlayStation is determined to go, right? So this is not a problem with Rocket League. That's a problem with PlayStation. Even if they're determined to not let me play multiplayer online, like through another person, even though they're clearly sitting on my console, which has PS Plus on it, I think the games now need to have offline multiplayer. Like, that has to be a thing. There has to be an offline multiplayer mode.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know, because you can only sync up so many PS4 controllers. I know you can play offline modes against bots with Thomas, which I'm sure you guys did. But I'd be curious to see your settings, because maybe you haven't made your account the master account on the system, and if you do that, it might allow Thomas's account to play online with you. Because if you make a PS Plus account on the main account on your PS4, any secondary account can access your PS Plus games and can play them. So that might fix the problem, but I'm not sure. I've never tried it.
All right, well, we will definitely give that a go and let you know next week.
No promises. But yeah, Rocket League, you guys, you've been enjoying it? Like, the car physics are kind of crazy. Learning how to take, like, those aerial shots, that's so tough.
Yeah, I'd say that so far we're both pretty bad at it, but it is a lot of fun.
Our online record is not stellar. We've been going online and trading off the controller goal by goal. So whether the opposing team scores
Nice.
or whether we score, we just hand it off, which is great. You talked about cooperative co-op before. You wrote about that on your blog. This is kind of a great, way to do that, right? Where we're on the same time, we're handing off. Thomas is definitely better than I am on offense. He's taken some really great shots. My defense, which mostly consists of ramming other cars, has been effective. Although, Thomas did contribute an amazing assist to a team goal through ramming.
Yeah, no, definitely the bully the other team strategy has been working out. I've also, I hate to admit it, missed some pretty easy saves for goals. Maybe need to work on my defense a little bit.
The saves are hard. Like, they look like they'd be easy, but it's so easy to, like, drive past the ball or the ball hit you and still roll over you. And I understand. I'm not the greatest at defense either. I'm good at clearing the ball, but, like, actually defending the goal is not easy.
Or, you'll redirect it into your own goal.
Oh man, I've done it before where I've been at like midfield and tried to clear the ball back towards the enemy's goal and just hit it towards mine and it went in. So, oh man,
an amazing shot into his own
I know
goal.
exactly. I always nice shot that or what's that? Or defending, do those little emotes. And Rocket League is fun. I'll still pick it up and play it. I'm silver rank in ranked 3v3, so that's, I don't know. I'm higher than bronze, so that's cool. I'm not terrible, I guess.
I have no idea what our rank is right now, and I'm a little scared to check.
I think it's better that we don't announce our rank
Yeah,
here on the podcast.
Probably don't want to check it. But no, the game is fun, and I love like the 5-minute matches. And I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast, but I know the graphics are nice, but man, oh man, would I take a scaled down version on the Vita that could just like pick up and play a game? That'd be great. But for now, it fills its purposes. Rocket League is definitely one of those games that is awesome that it's on PS Plus because it's fun, it's well designed, it's simple, but uses that simplicity to create, a low skill floor, a high skill ceiling, and obviously millions of people have downloaded it because it was free with PS Plus. So,
but hey,
I'm excited
man.
for that.
You wrote something in the show notes that I'm really excited to hear about.
So yeah, I'm going to be talking about this probably until fall, but I picked up and started playing The Witcher 3, or The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This is the open world epic RPG from CD Projekt Red, the famous Polish developer. He plays Geralt of Rivia. He's a witcher, he hunts and kills monsters. The game is, oh my god, there's too much to say in this long episode like that, but I'm very much enjoying my time. I think the world is jam-packed with content in a compelling way. I think the writing is stellar. The side quests actually feel meaningful. They do interesting things with conversations. It's not like Dragon Age Inquisition or most other RPG style where you're just kind of standing there statically. Cameras will shift and pan and has a cinematic kind of way of interacting with characters, which I think makes the game's many conversations interesting. I actually have a piece coming up on Tuesday that nitpicks the only thing that I've been really disliking about The Witcher, so look forward to that.
Oh man, what a tease.
I know, what a tease. But so I'm about 15 hours in, maybe, so like barely any of the ways in. I've been really trying to focus on doing main story missions, and I think I'm in good progress. But it's a game that got a lot of praise. The second it came out, it was in contention among many to be Game of the Year. It's super strong. To me, at this point, it almost feels like a better Skyrim, which is saying a lot because Skyrim is exceptional. So,
Thomas, you've actually got a PC capable of running The Witcher 3 on really high settings. Do you have any interest in the game? What do you think about it?
Well, that's a little bit awkward that you ask that, Charles, because I own The Witcher 2, and I've played about a half hour of it. So, it's kind of one of those games that's been in the backlog for a long time. Like, I'm like, oh, I'll play The Witcher 2, I guess I'll play Dota. I'll play The Witcher 2, I guess I'll play Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, I feel you, Thomas. I'll play it, and I'm like I like to game a little bit before I go to work, since I wake up relatively early. And then there's a large part of me that wants to play Witcher, but I'm like, can I get that much done in 45 minutes? I guess I'll play Hearthstone, or I guess I'll play a game of Heroes of the Storm. So it's one of those games that you just, like Demon's Souls, like Fliss mentioned with Demon's Souls, is one of those games I want to play for, like, at least 2 hours, like at a time, because otherwise you don't get much of anything done.
Yeah, and part of that just seems to be how immersive the world is, right?
Oh yeah. Say like it's really well optimized. It's not one of those games where you have to spend a long time loading. Like it's super open world, everything's streamlined. Quests go naturally. There's good fast travel systems, but yeah, it's just I want to get sucked in and not like, okay, I'll do one part of a quest, because like even the side quests here, there are some where you like, just go to a bandit camp and kill a bunch of bandits or whatever, but some of them are multi-stage, pretty much feel like a full quest, like a main story quest from any other RPG, but these are just like side quests. So yeah, the game is very detail rich. You could tell a lot of TLC went into making this game. It's for the fans. They just finished, the game came out in May, and they just finished, like every week they were releasing free DLC for the players. So I'm scared how much content is in this game. It's truly horrifying how much content is in this game. Like along a similar line, the team behind Fallout 4 was like, hey guys, our new game's coming out. You could play the game for 400 hours and still not see everything in the game. And to me, that's horrifying. Like, no, like there's too much in these games.
Absolutely.
I want to see it. I want to see everything, but I can't play a game for 400 hours.
Yeah, man. To me, to my completionist mindset, that is just completely anxiety-inducing. It's just like, no, you mean I'm not going to be able to see everything? I might not be able to see every ending and every leaf on every tree? No!
Yeah, I have to be honest, I'm going to make myself sound a little dumb here, but when I play an open world game, I get completely overwhelmed by the amount of choice. And I'm like, you have games that are on rails, and I'm like, where are the rails?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you. There's a game, Red Dead Redemption by Rockstar, that came out, and everyone loved it, and among one of Rockstar's best. And I picked up and played it, but I stopped playing it for nearly like a year, because all I did was like I was forced. I'm like, I have to pick every single one of these flowers. And so like I spent like 3 hours picking flowers in Red Dead Redemption. I'm like, man, this game sucks. I hate Red Dead Redemption. It wasn't until later that I picked it back up and like forced myself to do the main story that I'm like, oh, this game's pretty good. And so even though I'm picking flowers in The Witcher, I'm like, no, ignore that patch of flowers over there. I'm not picking them. I need to go kill this freaking cave troll. So yeah, it's tough, man.
Oh
it's
man,
tough.
that sounds like just an excellent. That just sounds like if you ever write a book about gaming, I feel like that should be the title of your book about gaming. Like, I'm not picking flowers. I have to kill this cave troll.
Amen. All right, TM, copyrighted. So that's going to be on my playlist forever. I've been playing some Heroes of the Storm. Like I said, I'm rank 40 now. I'm maxed out on my progression. Got a lot of gold. I'm just waiting for you guys to be able to play with me so we can jump into some Hero League.
Oh, I'm just waiting for you to try out some more Dota.
Yeah, it worked pretty well the first time that I tried to boot it up with you guys. I think it loaded pretty quickly. It got me in the game. There's no weird freezing issues or me not being able to see what was happening on screen. I think it worked pretty well.
But when you buy a real computer, just imagine how well it could run.
Yeah.
See, now that I've
in due time.
Now that I've bought a PS4, the tables have turned.
I'll buy a nice PC when you do, Fliss. How about that?
Oh, that is harsh. Harsh but fair. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah. Trust me. I mean, it's something I've thought off and on about for a long time. But once I find a space for a desk, that's the first thing to figure out where I would even put it, and then I'll go from there. I think that's going to do it for our show today. We've had a lot to talk about. Thomas, we've loved having you on. It's been great to hear your insights, not only as the brother of this co-host here, but as a mechanical engineer, as someone who's played a lot of games, and certainly your insights into Dota 2 were very welcome, as this is kind of like the biggest week in Dota 2.
Yeah, man,
ever.
It's been awesome having you here in Japan to hang out with, and it's been great having you on the show, and a lot of fun to pick on you and to take the same amount of teasing that I take every day of my life from you live on air. And you've definitely had some great insights, and I've learned a lot here on the show from you. So it's been great having you.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for having me.
Of course. Let's just say, folks, this is probably not the last you're going to hear of Thomas. So this is the part of the show where we do our concluding remarks and our promotion. Thomas, is there anything you want to promote your Twitter account or something? You want to tell the folks anything, where to follow you and or something? If not, a recommendation for something for them to check out.
I actually do not want to plug myself at all here. I have a Twitch channel, I have a Twitter, but they're both pretty much derelict. So I can't in earnest recommend them.
But we're working on persuading him to do some uploads to our Impact Factor YouTube channel. So check that out because maybe you'll be able to see this guy.
We'll see. There might be some Dota games, some HOTS games. We'll see.
That'd be sweet. Please be excited, folks. Please be excited.
Indeed, please be excited. Well, Thomas, thanks again for being with us. It's been again so much fun having you on the show. So and you will be streaming us some Dota to Heroes of the Storm. Yes. Everything is. We
gotta have that Marvel thing too at the end of all their movies. Thomas will return.
Yeah. Thomas will return. Exactly. Yeah. But hey, if you guys are interested, you can find me because I will shamelessly plug myself. You can find me on Twitter at the C Fliss. That's at THECFLISS. Also, check out my blog, Fliss of the North Star, for my thoughts on pop culture, Japan, and more. I'm kind of still trying to update about once a week. This past week, though, I did finally get up my post about Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj and all of my thoughts out on that. So we've got a great discussion going. I'll be responding to that and also finally getting some photos up of the festivals and some of the places Thomas and I have been visiting here in Japan.
Nice. And yeah, I recommend anyone who's remotely interested in pop culture. I think, Fliss, you take a very smart angle on the story at hand, especially providing your perspectives as someone who is a cis white male and then understands, like, looking at that viewpoint from a unique perspective without interjecting yourself in conversations that necessarily are not necessarily the space from which you talk. So I think you do a very smart job and provide a unique perspective. So I recommend everyone check that out.
Thanks a lot, man. That means a lot. That's flissofthenorthstar.blogspot.com.
Yeah, so and also thank you everyone for spending this bonus jam-packed episode spending it with us. So if you're hearing this now, chances are you found it on our SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/theimpactfactor. So please look us up there and follow us, heart our favorite, or repost our links. That'd be awesome. So please look us up also on the iTunes store and subscribe there to get direct downloads of the episode each week. So rating us there and writing reviews would do a lot for us. I don't have it in front of me, but we have some reviews on the iTunes store that I meant to read. Next episode. Please stay tuned. We got some reviews.
Please be excited.
Please be excited. So for an archive of all of our old episodes, check us out on YouTube by searching the Impact Factor video games or clicking the link in the show's description. The Impact Factor is an extension of my blog about video games, theimpactfactor.blogspot.com. Check there every Tuesday for a new review or article. This week I reviewed the summer's biggest game, Batman Arkham Knight. And then every Friday for my curation of the best written pieces from the world of gaming in a section I title News and Views. Send comments and suggestions for the podcast to impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate any and all mail. It'd be great. So follow me on Twitter at Alex Samocha. That's Alex S.A. Mocha, like the coffee. And until next time, go EG and make an impact.